Croft, after the old man finished speaking, the acolytes were a little flustered. What now? How should we choose? Beirut asked worriedly. Paying is definitely better than not paying. This is common sense. You should still have excess magic crystals, don't you? Leyland asked puzzledly. But I only have one magic crystal left. My family sacrificed 1,000 troops to get merely 2 magic crystals. Beirut was a little reluctant. Leyland was startled too, as he could not help but feel his pockets. The value of magic crystals is higher than I expected. When I extorted some from Orin earlier, I really lucked out. That's not right. The Chernobyl Islands is also known to Magi as the Barren Islands. Magic crystals are already scarce, so the value of magic crystals being much higher here may be due to that. A matter like this can only be decided by yourself, Leyland said to Beirut. All right, first up, Rainer. The old man said, Which are you choosing? I don't have any magic crystals left. Can I first buy on credit? I am a 4th grade acolyte. Rainer blushed. Not a bad aptitude. A pity, however, rules are rules. The old man shook his head. As he pointed at a crystal ball on the table, Rainer's name appeared within, along with many other unfamiliar names flickering as they appeared. When the black python Spotty spat out a letter and dabbed on the crystal ball, the words finally stopped flickering. Rainer, your mentor is Gaffrin. Take this, a set of acolyte robes and an identity badge, a crystal ball which contains an elementary meditation technique, and your room number and keys are there too. The old man threw the black sack containing the items to Rainer and then snapped his fingers. Bang! A black ball suddenly appeared in the room and floated in midair. Follow this shadow slave, it will bring you to where your mentor is. The old man made a gesture to send him off, and Rainer helplessly followed the black ball out. Next, Rousey. The one who laughed at Dorot earlier, Rousey was called. Although his complexion had recovered a little, there was still cold sweat on his face. Oh, what do I see? A nightmare hex. What a pitiful fellow. You're going to suffer for the next month. Could you remove this hex? Rousey's voice quivered. Definitely. 100 magic crystals. No credit allowed. The old man agreed crisply. Rousey shook his head and took a magic crystal from his robes. I want to choose my own mentor. N. The old man accepted the magic crystal and handed a compendium which looked like a dictionary to Rousey. The mentors who are willing to accept apprentices are all there. Take your time and pick. Bang! An hourglass appeared on the table, the sand falling slowly. I forgot to mention earlier, a magic crystal only allows for 1 turn of the hourglass. If you exceed it, you have to pay another magic crystal. The old man grinned. Rousey swallowed his saliva, and looking at the sand grains falling non-stop, he flipped through the pages in a hurry. This hourglass seems as though it lasts only 5 minutes worth of time. It is not even enough to skim through. Leyland's pupils shrank. Time up. In accordance with the voice, the compendium closed automatically and made a loud snapping sound. How is it? Have you chosen? Or do you wish to have another look? The old man asked. I have decided. I choose Mentor Vivian. Rousey sucked in a deep breath. Take your belongings and follow the slave. The old man threw a black sack, identical to the one from before, to Rousey and summoned another shadow slave. Rousey bowed humbly and followed the floating slave out the large doors. Next up, Caliware. The old man continued calling, and Leyland scrutinized the acolytes who went up. Caliware seemed well off as he paid 3 magic crystals and looked through the compendium before making a choice. As for Beirut, he did not pay the 1 magic crystal in the end. His mentor was chosen randomly, and he did not know if the results were good or bad. Next, Leyland. The old man called Leyland's name. Leyland inhaled deeply and walked to the front. I'll choose on my own. Leyland handed a magic crystal to the old man. You know the rules. The old man snapped. The hourglass flipped over and time started elapsing. The compendium was rather heavy, and the material seemed to be of high quality. Leyland hurriedly flipped through the pages and continuously skimmed through the information on the parchment. It is the language of the Chernobyl Islands. It seems like it has been specially prepared for us acolytes of this area. AI chip. Record and extract the information. Mentor Lester, Department of Souls, specializes in transformation, neurology, and composition of radiation. Able to provide information on 3 topics free of charge. Requirements. The acolyte must assist in an experiment every month and cannot be declined for any reason. Mentor Dorot, Department of Shadow, specializes in anatomy, conversion of energy, and necromancy. Requirements. Acolytes must pay 1 magic crystal per month and at the same time cooperate with experiments. Mentor Croft, Department of Potioneering, specializes in medicine, herbalism, and neutralization of energy. Able to provide information on one topic free of charge. Requirements. Acolytes must always help with the cleaning of the experimental lab, preparation and handling of various herbs, and at the same time, assist the Magus in carrying out herbal concoctions, on the basis that they cause no harm to the acolytes. Mentor Estelle, Department of Curses, specializes in curses, dissecting of human anatomy, and soul studies. Able to provide information on 5 topics free of charge. The category is chosen by the acolytes and can guide acolytes in their studies at any given time. Requirements: cooperate with one experiment, only one. The pages flipped and let out a rustling noise. By the time the last grain of sand fell, Leyland had managed to flip to the last page. Your memory isn't bad, which is useful for your studies in the future. How is it? Who will you choose? The old man smiled and asked. Leyland closed his eyes. AI chip. How is the collation of data? Beep. Data is in order. Information on 53 mentors collated. In process of discarding the enticing conditions. Leyland's complexion turned bitter. The information in the brackets for Mentor Croft earlier made me rather mindful. It seems like the experiments of Magi are dangerous and can actually jeopardize the safety of the acolytes. Croft is only doing experiments on herbal concoctions, but what of the others, like the shadow and necromancy experiments? No wonder the requirements given are so easy to meet, not needing to give payment for information. It was, in fact, so they could lure students who would cooperate for experimental testing. Although they might not have any adverse effects, it's all over once they do. AI chip. Carry out the filtering process with the conditions to match with my current circumstances. Beep. The blue light flashed, and the light blue screen in front of Leyland flickered. More than half of the mentor's information was omitted, leaving only a miserable few choices, including Dorot S. Mentor Dorot, Department of Shadow, specializes in anatomy, conversion of energy, and necromancy. Requirements. Acolytes must give one magic crystal each month, and at the same time, cooperate with experiments. Mentor Croft, Department of Potioneering, specializes in medicine, herbalism, and neutralization of energy. Able to provide information on one topic free of charge. Requirements. Acolytes must always help with the cleaning of the experimental lab, preparation and handling of various herbs, and at the same time, assist the Magus in carrying out herbal concoctions, on the basis that they cause no harm to the acolytes. It seems like Dorot's temper isn't too bad amongst the mentors. If not, he wouldn't have gone to fetch the new batch of acolytes. Leyland thought inwardly, a pity that my magic crystals are not enough, and he has Jaden already. I'm afraid there will not be much attention given to me. Also, the Shadow Department mentors all require acolytes to cooperate with their experiments and cannot ensure the safety of acolytes. This is such a fraud. Leyland, helpless, omitted the mentors of the Shadow Department. What's left is only this alchemy mentor. With the extreme and unique advantages that I have with my AI chip, I can definitely make use of alchemy to earn money and buy knowledge related to the dark element. To others, Leyland had merely closed his eyes and made his choice right after opening them. I choose Mentor Croft. Alchemy. The old man was a little surprised. You wish to become an alchemist. The effort and resources invested are extremely horrifying. Do you want to change? I think Dorot suits you well. Thank you, sir. Leyland earnestly bowed. I have a hobby for alchemy and have also acquired some knowledge in this field beforehand. The mortal world's perception of alchemy is totally different from that of the world of Magi. The old man shook his head. Then, seeing Leyland's resolute gaze, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Since you have already decided, so be it." After speaking, the old man took a quill pen and scribbled on the parchment paper. Here are your belongings. Follow the shadow slave to where Croft is. The old man handed a sack over to Leyland. Leyland bowed deeply and even nodded to the remaining acolytes before leaving through the large door. The black-colored ball floated in front and occasionally spun in a circle. Its speed was not too fast, and with Leyland's body of a peak preparatory knight, he easily followed along. From time to time, there were acolytes passing, but they did not look at Leyland in astonishment. Leyland followed the shadow slave and passed through several corridors, 2 large halls, and a garden. It then stopped in front of an area designed for experiment labs. The shadow slave turned translucent and immediately passed through the door, leaving Leyland outside. Leyland was speechless, yet he did not dare knock on the door. Therefore, he just waited outside patiently. After a moment, there came a middle-aged man's voice. "Leyland, huh? Enter." "Yes." Leyland pushed open the doors of the experimental lab. A sweet and spicy aroma filled the laboratory room, mingling with the odor of poisonous fumes and liquids, which made Leyland furrow his brows. A huge table took up the space of almost half the lab, and placed on it were various test tubes, flasks, and beakers, as well as some other apparatus that Leyland could not identify. This made Leyland recall his previous life. In front of the laboratory table, there stood a white-haired, middle-aged man who wore white robes. His collar was embroidered with golden patterns, and his eyes emitted a golden light, like two golden gems. "I'm Croft, and I've heard the details from the Shadow Slave. So then, Leyland, are you willing to become my apprentice?" The middle-aged man put down the test tube in his hands and said solemnly, "Meditation technique, I am willing," Leyland hurriedly answered. "That's good. Since these are the arrangements made by the school, I'll accept you as my disciple." The middle-aged man stroked his beard. "Although the environment here is quite ordinary, it's enough to let you undergo the initiation." Croft swept his eyes over the examination room. "At least it's very quiet here and we won't be disturbed." "What initiation?" Leyland had some doubts. "The initiation of a Magus," Croft replied. "Now tell me, Leyland, what is a Magus to you?" "A mysterious person with the ability to call forth thunder and storms, manipulate flames and other forces of nature." Leyland said the definition he knew of in Chernobyl Islands. However, it's a little off," Croft commented. "A Magus is actually the title we give to people with power in ancient times. These magi all learn the principles and how to control and manipulate the energy within. They are never ending in their pursuit of knowledge and truth." Croft explained the definition of magi to Leyland. "So it is to say, the title of Magus is actually not limited to only humans." Leyland had a better understanding now. Indeed, other kinds of demi-humans and even other intelligent beings have magi existing among their kind, for example, a Magus of the sea tribes or even a dragon Magus. Croft said, "All right, now let us begin the rites. Don't be afraid, it's very simple." Clap. The floor around Croft softened and transformed into a spell formation of sorts, and a strange energy came spreading from within. The surroundings turned dark, with only the flame lit in the center of the formation. "Right now, give your hand to me." Leyland stretched his hand out and a larger palm firmly clasped it. "Abiding by the rites of ancient times, I will now guide you, Leyland Farlier, onto the path of a Magus. Recite after me. I swear, I will forever be in pursuit of the truth." Croft used an unfamiliar language, but Leyland understood it completely, and his mouth could not help but produce the same sounds. "I swear, I will forever be in pursuit of the truth." As it was a voice of a 13 or 14-year-old youth, there was still a little immaturity in the voice. "Without the permission of my mentor, I swear that I will not reveal any of the information my mentor passes on to me." Croft continued to recite and Leyland followed suit. The two voices very soon eerily turned into one. In the hearts of the formation, the flame suddenly grew brighter and blazed strongly. "Congratulations on formally becoming an acolyte." After the rites, Croft congratulated Leyland. Leyland looked down at both of his hands. After the mysterious rites, it seemed like he saw the world in a different light, yet at the same time, he couldn't pinpoint the difference. "An anomaly has been discovered in the brainwaves of the host," the AI chip's voice sounded. "It seems like there is a change in spiritual force, but I don't have any further information regarding this field, so I can only supplement it in the future," Leyland said helplessly. "The meditation technique in the crystal ball has already been given to you, right? Take a look at it when you go back. You can already absorb the information in it now. Tomorrow, come here at 6 in the morning." "You can leave now, but remember, don't wander around," Croft warned. "I'll do as you bid, mentor," Leyland bowed, and then walked out of the experimental lab. "Luckily, I passed them earlier, otherwise I wouldn't even know where the dormitories are located." When he was following the Shadow Slave earlier, Leyland had already let the AI chip start mapping the area. Now there was a small part that was completed, and he knew the places that he had walked past before. The areas with magi are rather dangerous, and Leyland did not wish to suffer from any collateral damage from them. After reaching the dorms, Leyland took the key out from the sack issued by the old man. It was a heavy black copper key, and it was labeled 783. Right now, it was rather cold and vacant in the dorms. Leyland walked through the empty corridors, and his hair stood on end as he listened to the echo of his footsteps. Following the room numbers, he found his room. "It's here." Leyland placed the key into the keyhole, and the heavy metal produced a click. As the large door opened, the dark room automatically produced a flame. They actually used the principles of Magi to invent a similar sound activation system. Leyland placed his belongings down and inspected the place in which he was going to live for some years. The dormitory was a little small and was divided into 3 partitions: a bedroom, living room, and washroom. They were actually self-contained living quarters, and there was even a new blanket placed on the bed. It looked prim and proper. The environment isn't bad. Leyland sat on the bed and took out the things that were given by the academy. A set of acolyte robes. The AI chip has detected that there are several spells cast on it, and the defense is even comparable to some of the leather armor around great stuff. Leyland efficiently changed into the robes and pinned the acolyte badge to his chest. This look was exactly the same as the gray-robed acolytes he had seen earlier today. What Leyland did next was to pack his things and do a cleaning of the room. When he went out, the doors of the dorm beside him opened, and a brown-haired acolyte walked out. "Hello, are you a new acolyte? I am Bill." "Hello, I am Leyland, and I have just arrived today," Leyland answered, and he just happened to have some questions. "Excuse me, how do I get to the dining hall?" Hearing Leyland's voice, Bill's expression appeared as if he had expected it. "Right now it's pretty late, and I'm about to go there too. Let's go together." "I couldn't ask for more." Leyland smiled gently and closed his door. "The dining hall is on level 3 underground, and everything there is free. Of course, you can fork out money and let them make a dish that you want to eat." Bill led the way as he explained. "I am from the Poolfield Kingdom, and you?" "Chernobyl Islands." "Heavens, so far." "You have definitely suffered along the way, huh?" Bill was obviously a chatterbox, and Leyland managed to probe some information out from him. Bill was the same as him, a new acolyte, and only arrived 5 days earlier than Leyland did. As for the whole of Abyssal Bone Forest Academy, the professors numbered close to 100, while the acolytes numbered over 1,000. "Oh, right. Who is your mentor?" Bill asked. "Croft, an alchemy professor," Leyland replied. "Alchemy, you're good." Bill was seemingly startled. "Is it difficult to learn alchemy?" Leyland was a little worried now. "Not only is it difficult, the study of alchemy requires a huge amount of resources and ingredients. People who don't come from a good family background will rarely choose this. However, alchemists tend to make a lot of money after they have been certified." Bill gave Leyland a regretful look. "You must have been randomly assigned a mentor during the selection, and then duped by that Python Spotty." "Oh, really?" Leyland rubbed his nose. "All right, we're here at the dining hall now. Take whatever you want to eat." The dining hall was extremely extravagant, and the food was more delicious than what he had on the dirigible. Everyone who sat here was also an acolyte, and there were no signs of a Magus. After dinner, Leyland bid farewell to Bill and then returned to his room. He sat on his bed with the crystal ball clasped in his hands. "I can finally start practicing as a Magus." Leyland stroked the crystal ball. His eyes gradually turned hazy and his nostrils flared. "A data interface has been discovered. Start transmitting or not." The AI chip's voice sounded. "Begin." At Leyland's command, an acute pain entered his brain as if someone filled it with lead. "This is..." Leyland grabbed his head and discovered that many images and words appeared in his brain along with the pain, and the first line was, "Elementary meditation technique." This information appeared out of nowhere and was firmly imprinted in Leyland's mind. After some time, Leyland finally recovered from the pain, but he was still feeling groggy. "AI chip, defragment the data for the elementary meditation technique." Beep. Task established, beginning defragmentation. A blue interface started to flicker in front of Leyland's eyes. Beep. The data has been defragmented. 21.3% of miscellaneous information has been removed. Begin to transmit. "Transmit," Leyland ordered. With the continuous transmission from the AI chip, Leyland began to gain an understanding of the elementary meditation technique for acolytes. Elementary meditation techniques are, as their name implies, special meditation techniques given to acolytes and are the most basic of techniques. After many years of modification, they have already reached a nearly perfect stage, and the content of the elementary meditation techniques from the various academies did not differ by much. To be specific, they are similar to the visualization techniques from his previous world. An acolyte draws mind runes inside their mind to increase their spiritual force, and as they draw more mind runes, their spiritual force grows stronger. Every magi liked to record all the precise details and processes down. In regards to acolytes, they have divided the practice into 3 levels. Level 1 Acolyte, Level 2 Acolyte, and Level 3 Acolyte. As for the division between levels, it is seen through the progression of the elementary meditation technique. When one has the ability to meditate with 8 runes, they have passed the criteria for a Level 1 Acolyte. Being able to meditate with 24 runes is the sign of a Level 2 Acolyte. As for Level 3 Acolytes, there seem to be other conditions needed. As for the meditation progress, it is closely related to a Magus aptitude. In regards to meditation practice, the superiority of a 5th grade Acolyte is extremely obvious. They can become a Level 1 Acolyte in only 5 to 6 days. No wonder Jaden, who was a regular human before boarding the dirigible, was able to use a magic artifact in just half a month's time. As for a 4th grade Acolyte, the time needed to become a Level 1 Acolyte is approximately 15 to 20 days. 3rd grade Acolytes will need a month's time. 2nd grade Acolytes will need half a year, and 1st grade Acolytes will need several years. This difficulty in progressing will only increase when ascending to Level 2 Acolyte and Level 3 Acolyte. Hence is it understandable for professors to favor acolytes with high aptitudes. After all, maybe one can receive the remuneration of a proper Magus in a dozen years, with just a little more effort put in now. An independent file has been created for the meditation technique data, analyze or not. The AI chip prompted with a window. Begin analyzing. In the process of analyzing, progress, 0. 11% the AI chip showed the current state. This crystal ball seems to input the information directly into the acolyte's brains, but the method is a little too crude, and it does not care if you remember it completely or not. But the AI chip is able to defragment and store it directly in the memory bank, and is even able to aid by analyzing the process. Leyland indifferently compared the differences between the two. The academy compounds tick-tock, tick-tock. The hands of the bronze clock in the room swiveled around once more as another hour passed. The first mind rune has been analyzed. Start transmitting or not, the AI chip prompted. Has it finally been analyzed? Begin transmission. In this period of time, Leyland had also been studying the blueprints of the meditation technique, but it was to no avail. The mind rune appeared as a 3D image, and the patterns inside were extremely complicated, with no room for errors. To display this image in book form, not only would the author need to have outstanding training in the fine arts, but the reader's comprehension skills would also be put to the test. Leyland estimated that regular acolytes would need to spend a good number of days to even begin to understand a single mind rune before starting to construct them in their brains. However, with the AI chip, it was done in a matter of hours. This pace may very well be comparable to a 4th or 5th grade acolyte, Leyland estimated. After the AI chip's transmission, Leyland had already completely comprehended the structure of the first mind rune. It was in the shape of an A, without the horizontal line in the middle, and was filled with patterns and helixes, making one dizzy the more they looked at it. To begin the meditation, I must first have peace of mind and imagine a serene lake. Leyland slowly closed his eyes. In the dimly lit room, the youth sat cross-legged and closed his eyes as if he was in a slumber. After an unknown period of time, there were a few spots of lights flickering in the youth's surroundings. They entered the body of the youth, and very soon they disappeared. Leyland's eyelids fluttered, and he opened his eyes. So tiring. It seems like the meditation technique and a night's breathing technique is the same. There is a time limit. AI chip, check my body's status. Beep, scanning the host's body. The host's brain cells have been stimulated, and all of the cells in the body have increased in activity as a whole. Beep. The host's vitality has increased by 0.05. Oh, meditation techniques. There's no doubt that they are cultivation techniques for magi. I can feel that the key purpose of this meditation technique is to increase the spiritual force, and the increase in vitality is only an added benefit. The spiritual force affects my stats. After practicing the meditation technique, my vitality has actually started to exceed my previous limit. Leyland's expression was complex, and there was an indescribable joy in his heart. According to the introduction in the data, sleeping right after meditation will provide the most optimal effects. Leyland stripped his outer robes, laid on the bed, and then entered into a deep sleep. Beep, beep, the alarm is ringing. The AI chip's voice rang and brought Leyland out from his sleep. It is already the time that I set my alarm for. Time really passes quickly. Leyland stretched lazily and saw that the clock showed the time as 5:30. I'd better hurry up and tidy up. I still need to see Mentor Croft. Leyland washed up quickly, went to the dining hall and gobbled down a bread for his breakfast, and then rushed to the experiment lab from yesterday. "Good morning, sir," Leyland greeted. He noticed a female acolyte beside the white-haired Croft. She had fine curves and looked beautiful and seemed to be another apprentice of the professor. You attempted the meditation technique." Croft furrowed his brows. "How did it feel?" "My head ached and I felt a little dizzy." "This is a common aftereffect of the transmission from the memory crystal ball. You just need to get more rest during this period," Croft said. "Come, let me introduce you. This is Bicky, my other apprentice. This is Leyland, the new acolyte from yesterday." "Hi," Bicky bowed, giving a virtuous greeting. "Hello." Leyland placed his right arm on his chest and displayed the elegance of a noble. "Bicky is your senior. Besides her, you also have another senior called Merlin. His potioneering skills are excellent," Croft said to Leyland. "Merlin has been called a once-in-a-century genius of potioneering and is regarded as the most likely successor of our mentor," Bicky added. "Haha, indeed. Merlin has shown outstanding talent in potioneering. If there is anything you don't understand, you may seek his help." Once he mentioned Merlin, Croft's face revealed a smile, and he seemed extremely satisfied with that student of his. "So, Leyland, are you familiar with my rules?" "I have seen them when going through the professor requirements during the selection of mentors," Leyland nodded. "Okay. From now on, you have to come here every day and help with the cleaning up, but you may go listen to the free lessons during breaks. As for the benefit of being under me, which is receiving information on a topic, you can choose and ask me after learning the basics," Croft said. "Thank you, sir," Leyland hurriedly bowed. Right now, he had no inkling whatsoever about the Magus world, so even if Croft wanted him to choose, he would not know which was best. It was only right to choose at a later time when he could reap the most benefits. "Right now, I will give both of you half a day's break. Let Bicky accompany and show you around the academy. Bicky, tell him about the few restrictions." "Yes." Leyland and Bicky nodded their heads and left the laboratory. "This is the residence of the professors. Acolytes usually aren't allowed to enter. This is the trading post, where acolytes can make transactions with others. And here, we have the mission area. The different missions and levels will be written on this stone wall. Acolytes can complete these missions and obtain contribution points and magic crystals." Bicky's voice was extremely pleasing to the ears, and she was beautiful too. Her personality was also lively. Leyland's mood improved a lot by spending time with her. The two of them strolled through the academy. It was mostly Bicky leading Leyland around, as she spoke of a few places and restrictions along the way. Unknowingly, the two of them walked into a garden. "Fail, well done. Good once more." The sound of voices caught Leyland's attention. In the middle of the garden, a group of acolytes were standing around a large, sturdily built youth and chatting continuously. In the center of the crowd was a youth with a bright silver hair, with dark green eyes, and he seemed to have some sort of strange charisma. "That is Senior Fail. He's a genius. He became a level 2 acolyte just half a year after entering the academy." Bicky's eyes were widened, and her face shone radiantly as she muttered. "This expression, it seems like Bicky has a good impression of this Fail." Leyland rubbed his nose. Bicky. Ah, what is it?" Only after Leyland called out to her several times did Bicky avert her gaze. At this moment, her face was a little flushed. "Oh, I wanted to ask, why are there so many plants here underground?" Leyland sniffed a red flower. The flower had a strong fragrance. "There are huge patches of sunlight moss on the roof of the gardens, and these mosses can emit a light similar to sun rays, hence plants can also grow underground in here," Bicky explained. "Oh." Leyland nodded his head and wondered if he should come here more often in the future to bask in the sunlight, since being exposed to more sunlight was not bad for a person after all. Seeing Bicky's reluctance to leave, Leyland purposely pretended to have a strong interest in the garden, until Fail and the others left. Bicky would only glance at Fail secretly, although she did not muster any courage to walk up to greet him even after such a long while. This made Leyland roll his eyes, as Bicky's attitude towards romance can be considered rare in this academy. The academic area will often post the following day's class schedule, and there are many free and public lessons to choose from. As a newbie, you cannot afford to miss these. After leaving the garden, Bicky brought Leyland to the academic area and pointed to a large wooden board. In front of it were many other acolytes who were taking down notes. "Free public lessons." That means there are lessons which one must pay for, Leyland asked. That's right. There are lessons which have fees, and many advanced topics charge 1 magic crystal for 10 lessons. Although they are much better than public lessons, they are still somewhat inferior to the knowledge given by our own mentors. Vicky smiled a little bitterly. I'm afraid the only advantage is them being less expensive. Leyland nodded. On one side, there was a professor teaching dozens of students, while the other was an individual lesson. The advantages between the two are definitely different. However, he had the AI chip, so his learning capability was outstanding. He was confident that he would do well even in a large class. With this method, I can definitely save some magic crystals. Leyland stroked his chin. He only had 2 magic crystals left. Earlier, when he was in the mission area, he saw that the missions that awarded magic crystals generally had more troublesome tasks and required one to be a level 1 acolyte at least. Right now, Leyland did not meet the requirements. As for the cleaning tasks, they are all done by those spell slaves, and the rest are all snatched by others. There's simply no place for me. Leyland was a little frustrated. Magic crystals were the currency among magi and were also the most common way to obtain greater knowledge in the academy. Without magic crystals, his studies would be hindered. I had better attend those public classes first and advance to a level 1 acolyte. After that, I'll consider taking up missions to earn some magic crystals, Leyland sighed. AI chip, how is the mapping of the academy? Beep. 66.7% has been mapped, the AI chip replied. In front of Leyland was a blue image. Each layer of the buildings was displayed and divided into multiple parts, and it looked like a beehive. Some areas even had names attached, with Bicky's explanation for them on the side. The areas that could be entered freely were marked in green, while the dangerous areas were in yellow. As for the areas that even Bicky did not dare enter, the AI chip indicated them in red, representing extreme danger. For those red-colored danger zones, Leyland decided to walk around them. He even decided not to ask about them before becoming a level 3 acolyte. The mapping has been recorded. Leyland nodded his head and said farewell to Bicky. Bicky, thank you for accompanying me for a day. I remember most of the important areas of the academy now. That's great. Bicky played with the little white flower in her hands. If there are any things that you don't understand, you can ask me. Of course. Leyland gave a small smile. After bidding farewell to Bicky, Leyland ate his dinner and went back into his room. He began to practice the meditation technique. A Magus's meditation is a continuous journey. Only with daily devotion and perseverance can one achieve enough spiritual force to become a being that can control mysterious powers. The AI chip is only useful for analyzing the meditation technique. As for the creation of the mind runes, it was completely dependent on my own spiritual force, and it also relied a little on my comprehension and aptitude. In these areas, the AI chip was not much help. After meditating, Leyland felt his spiritual force increase by another tiny sliver, and then he entered into a deep slumber. A level 1 acolyte is actually someone with a stronger spiritual force than an average person. At the same time, he is able to move energy particles and store them inside their body, and is a newbie at conceptualizing the creation of magic power. Only a level 2 acolyte will be able to access a magic spell's formula and cast the spell in its complete form. But once their body creates magic power, their stats can be strengthened through constant radiation, as their body resists the poisoning from the external radiation. Leyland made his judgment on the levels, separating the acolytes based on the data on the meditation technique. AI chip, retrieve all the data I have gathered today and begin analyzing. This is what Leyland had been doing all this time. He would do his best to collect data from other people without drawing their attention and store the data in folders. He created a folder with the data regarding spiritual force and how to transform them, a lesson which Leyland learnt yesterday. The information required was too much, and the process may be measured in years. Beep. Analysis completed. Result. The entire surroundings of Abyssal Bone Forest Academy is contaminated with traces of radiation. The biggest sources of contamination are magi, and a few experimental setups and materials. The host is suggested to stay away from these sources, or to increase the resistance of the body. As I expected, there are no regular human beings in the whole of this academy because of the environmental effects that the magi and acolytes bring about. As for these effects, Only a Magus can resist against it. A regular human would most likely have a lifespan of a few years in this environment. Leyland's face darkened and conjured up the images of a few people, including Bicky and Croft. According to the readings of the radiation emitted by them, a Magus is actually a moving source of radiation. Each one of them is like a minuscule nuclear reactor, or could they have made use of the radiation to advance? Leyland furrowed his brows. No matter what, I must hurry up and become a level 1 acolyte. The longer I take, the greater the damage my body will receive. Leyland was resolved. In the next 2 weeks, Leyland would report to where Croft was every day, assist in the cleaning of the experiment lab, and sort out a few insignificant experiment resources. In this period, he had seen Croft's genius apprentice Merlin, who was also his senior. Merlin was extremely tall and had a very taciturn personality. He constantly pored over his experiments. Besides Croft, his interactions with Bicky and Leyland were minimal. This could be one factor attributing to his success in potioneering. In the remaining time, he spent them in the free public lessons. The free lessons in Abyssal Bone Forest Academy were not many, and they only consisted of the history of Magi, the basics of the ancient Byron language, the principles of Magi spells, basic potioneering, anatomy, and basic magic spell theory. The professors of the public lessons always had dark expressions, and they hurriedly left right after the period ended. Not only did they not answer the acolytes' questions, it seemed like everyone owed them magic crystals. It was a public lesson. After all, being able to listen is already not too bad. Leyland comforted himself. He had the AI chip and could record the lessons completely. In the future, he could always take them out for reference when he revises. As for the other acolytes, they were in a worse state. If they did not understand, there was always a price to pay to obtain information from the professors or other acolytes. Leyland was even prepared to earn some magic crystals by giving away information from these public lessons. Today's topic was really difficult. The image of that barren lizard's anatomy was only shown for a few seconds. I did not even have time to look at it clearly, Bill complained. There's no choice. The study of anatomy is a very broad topic, and the images are aplenty. Classes will not end if they're not taught fast enough, Leyland replied by his side. He was neighbors with Bill, and both of them were fresh acolytes, so they often attended classes together. Their friendship considered pretty well. As for Callieweir and the others, because they were designated to various mentors and lived rather far away, they barely maintained their relationships. Professor Marlene's anatomy classes are prerequisites for more advanced topics, so we have to learn it. Bill was a little frustrated. Leyland, did you remember everything from earlier? To memorize everything is impossible, but I have taken notes on most of the diagrams and the images depicting the vital body parts. Leyland concealed his trump card. So awesome. Could you tutor me after classes? I will fork out 1 magic crystal. Bill made up his mind. I want to major in transfiguration, so I must excel in anatomy. No problem. Leyland smiled and nodded his head. The information of the few paid lessons in the academy was not allowed to be traded in private, but as for the public lessons, there were no such restrictions. Leyland had asked around, and it seemed that the higher-level acolytes did not think much of these measly wages, while the lower-level acolytes did not have much confidence to teach and failed to meet the requirements. Hence, this benefited him greatly. However, you know that I have to undergo meditation at night, so let's schedule the lessons right after dinner. 1-hour lessons for a week. How is it? Leyland asked. No problem, Bill answered. This amount of time was similar to that of the paid public lessons, but the tutoring was done one-on-one, so it was a fair price. After dinner, Leyland went to Bill's room and tutored him on the topic of anatomy. After an hour, he returned to his dorm. Playing with the magic crystal in his hand, Leyland nodded his head. Bill knows how to conduct himself, and he has already paid the fees up front. Placing the black crystallized object onto the bed, Leyland took out the black sack hanging from his waist and poured the contents out on the bed. A total of 4 black magic crystals were dropped onto the bed, bouncing slightly. I am a new acolyte and have only studied for half a month. Apart from Bill and some others, no one believes in my abilities. I have only earned 2 magic crystals so far. AI, it's hard to earn money through tutoring, and it takes up a lot of time. Senior Merlin can brew a random potion and earn 10 times faster than me by selling it. Potioneering masters are rather rare amongst Magi, and a huge investment is needed to become one. However, after succeeding, one can make money at a terrifying pace. Almost there. I have a feeling that I will become a level 1 acolyte tonight. After reaching level 1 acolyte, I will be able to move the energy particles in the air. Not only will I be able to resist the radiation from the Academy's buildings, I will also be able to attempt to experiment with basic potion brewing. Leyland's eyes flashed with excitement, but very soon he recovered the magic crystals on the bed properly, exercising restraint. He then sat cross-legged on the bed and began the meditation for the day. The air in the room quietened down, and only the faint sounds of Leyland's breathing could be heard. Leyland's chest moved with an undulating pattern and his expression was serene, with only some restless movements beneath his eyelids. After about an hour, several black spots of light radiated from Leyland's forehead, just like fireflies. These light spots hovered around Leyland and finally entered his orifices. It looked a little eerie. Who? After the black-colored spots of light entered Leyland's body, he felt his whole body shudder. The muscles on his face twitched, and large beads of sweat rolled down. Very soon, he returned back to having a peaceful state. After some time, Leyland opened his eyes. I have finally advanced to a level 1 acolyte. This speed of half of a month is slightly inferior to a regular 4th grade acolyte. Originally, I could have advanced 5 days ago, but I stopped to stabilize my spiritual force. There were few difficulties in advancing this time, which may be attributed to that. The one reason for prolonging the date of advancement was to stable the spiritual force, and another was to keep a low profile. A regular 3rd grade acolyte must take around a month's time to turn into a level 1 acolyte after receiving the meditation technique. As for half a month's time, that was the measure of a 4th grade acolyte. Leyland did not want to undergo any tests caused by suspicions of him having the wrong aptitude. If the AI chip was discovered in the end, not only would it be lost, his life might also be in danger. After all, the AI chip now has undergone changes after transcending dimensions. It has already fused together with his soul and cannot be separated at all. According to the estimations of the AI chip, a level 1 acolyte's spiritual force is roughly double that of an average adult. Moreover, spiritual force seems to have a life of its own, strongly attracting the energy particles in the air towards it. Leyland stretched his hands, and a layer of black-colored light wrapped around his arm, like a layer of cotton candy. It also felt a little cooling. I have the highest elemental affinity with the dark element, and will choose to cultivate on the path of the dark element. This was the plan that I set for myself since long ago. As for the energy particles of fire and the other elements, I shall just keep a few of them to use it to my advantage in future. Pa! Leyland snapped his fingers several times, and a layer of faint blue light lit up on his body. What followed next was a layer of steam, which made Leyland's clothes wet. This is similar to taking a shower, Leyland smiled, and then a layer of red light shone. As Leyland's body was enveloped by the red light, water vapor emitted from his body. Very soon the water was all evaporated, and the room seemed to be a little humid. After becoming an acolyte, I am able to use these energy particles for simple daily activities. This is really convenient, Leyland exclaimed again and asked, AI chip, have you recorded the processes earlier? Beep. Recording done. Please provide a name. Simple usage of water element and fire elemental energy particles. Beep. The renaming is done. Storing in data bank. With the help of the AI chip, Leyland had one of the best comprehension abilities for the usage of energy particles amongst the level 1 acolyte. Leyland smiled, but as he was about to stand, he suddenly felt giddy. I overspent my spiritual force earlier. Leyland realized the reason and smiled bitterly. The spiritual force of a level 1 acolyte is still too minuscule. To properly use the energy particles on a daily basis, I must only do it when I am a level 3 acolyte at least. Leyland rubbed his temples. I already meditated earlier, so now I can only sleep to replenish my spiritual force. He hurriedly straightened out the room and entered into a deep sleep. The next morning, Leyland was filled with vigor as he got off the bed and headed to Mentor Croft's experiment lab. Oh, this energy movement. The white-haired Croft was startled and immediately looked at Leyland, who had walked in. Leyland, you have broken through. Yes, Leyland humbly lowered his head. It has only been 20-odd days since you started meditating. It seems like your aptitude amongst the third-grade acolytes is outstanding, and it almost reaches that of the fourth-grade acolytes. Croft smiled with gratification. Elementary potioneering, Professor. I have already become a level 1 acolyte and have understood the basics from the public lessons, Leyland said softly. I know, you wish to choose the subject for the knowledge I am providing. Croft interrupted Leyland's speech. I heard that you have already been teaching other acolytes information from the public lessons that you've attended to earn magic crystals. It seems like your learning and memorizing abilities are rather outstanding. From what I see now, you have the capability to learn an information of a higher tier. Thank you, Leyland bowed deeply. Leyland had some understanding towards the paid lessons in the academy. Although professors have information on a higher level, it was only their own findings. As for the other cutting-edge research, including the results of various personal experiments, information was only traded at the professor's level. This information was deemed the best, and can even be transferred directly into an acolyte's memory, so they will never forget it. However, the fees were also the most expensive. Each subject required at least 10 magic crystals, and Leyland simply could not afford it right now. The only thing he could hope for was the one free subject that Croft promised at the start. Croft nodded his head and moved the apparatus on his table aside. He then retrieved some strange items from God knows where and placed them on the table. There was a huge book with a yellow cover, a crystal ball, and a test tube filled with yellowish liquid. These 3 items represent my 3 areas of specialization. The book on the left represents the neutralization of energy, the crystal ball represents herbalism, and the test tube represents potioneering. Make your choice, Croft said. I choose potioneering. The reason Leyland chose Croft as his mentor was to advance in potioneering and then rely on selling potions to earn money for his studies, so naturally he chose this. Elementary potioneering is an advanced course stemming from the public potioneering basics course. In theory, it is possible to start brewing potions after fully understanding these 2 lessons. I knew you would choose this, the middle-aged Croft revealed a smile. The art of potion brewing is extremely complex and complicated. The slightest mistake will result in a failure. All of the potion masters have spent a vast amount of resources to accumulate their experience. Are you ready for this? Yes, sir. I believe in this saying, you may not be rewarded for hard work, but without hard work there will definitely be no reward. Indeed, a very good mindset. One needs to have this philosophy on the road to truth. Croft nodded and handed the yellow test tube to Leyland. This is yours now. How do I use it? Leyland looked at the test tube in his hands. Just drink from it directly. Leyland opened the wooden plug and poured the yellowish liquid into his mouth. An obnoxious sewer stench infiltrated his senses, and the smell lingered in his nose. Leyland's face turned red, and tears even came out. He barely managed to swallow it as he gasped for air. I swear I have never drunk such a smelly thing before. Smelly. An unimaginable stench constantly shocked Leyland's nerves, making him feel like fainting. Under the stimulation of the extreme smell, the surroundings appeared blurry to Leyland, and the items in the vicinity all seemed to be distorted. It feels. Not so. Leyland looked at Croft, and at this moment the professor looked like a noodle, twisting and distorting. The professor's lips opened and closed, and he spoke sporadically, which brought about a lot of noise. It sounded like the friction produced between 2 metals, or some broken radio with poor signal. Leyland raised his hand. His smooth palm seemed to be filled with folds, and even melted like a candle, falling down 1 drop at a time. And finally, Leyland's entire body turned into a puddle of liquid and disappeared completely into the darkness. How do you feel? Croft's voice rang, and Leyland was startled. He touched his head, the hard sensation bringing along warmth and a little moisture. The surroundings turned back to normal, and Croft stood there smiling. I don't feel too good. Large amounts of sweat trickled down from Leyland's head. Was what I saw earlier an illusion? It felt too real. That is a normal occurrence. The illusionary spells of magi seem like reality to acolytes, and some acolytes have even experienced their whole life inside the illusions and died of old age. Croft's voice sounded. The information has already been transferred into your brain. Do some more meditation after you go back. At this moment, Leyland discovered a block of new information inside his brain. A phrase appeared on the right side of the text, saying, Elementary potioneering. All right. Today your task is to sweep Area 3 and also freeze all the fire ant grass. Croft handed out the tasks. Leyland nodded his head and picked up the tools lying in the corner of the lab, and then headed to Area 3. Congratulations, Leyland. During Leyland's break time, Bicky came before Leyland. I was just lucky. Leyland smiled lightly. Bicky had come here a year earlier than him and was also a level 1 acolyte. Once you are a level 2 acolyte, you will be able to use rank 0 spells. Also, the mind runes will only get increasingly difficult. I still have to persevere for at least another year of meditation before I have a chance at advancing. With the AI chip, Leyland was fully aware of the situation he was in. On the other side, Merlin, who was boring over his experiments, raised his head and forced a smile that was uglier than crying. Leyland nodded his head in acknowledgement. He knew that this senior of his had burnt the muscles of his face in an experiment and was now unable to make any facial expressions. Magi experiments are really treacherous. Leyland shook his head. Leyland was rather efficient and normally finished the task Croft gave him by noon. If there was spare time in the afternoon, he would go listen to the public lessons. Goodbye. After saying goodbye to Bicky and Merlin, Leyland did not go to the academic area but instead went to the trading post. The trading post was huge and was located beside the mission area. However, it was rather chaotic. Many gray-robed acolytes set up stalls, with an erect signboard stating the items and conditions that they wished to sell or trade. Once in a while, a few acolytes would engage in haggling. It was extremely bustling. It seems like only acolytes are around. As for the Magi, they should have another area to trade in. Leyland looked on and only saw gray robes. Not a single white or black-robed Magus was present. Leyland browsed through the stalls. Some of them were set up on the floor, similar to the previous world's street vendors, and looked to be a little dirty. The floor stalls, items belonged to the miscellaneous category. Most of them were bows, knives, darts, and so on. There were also the fur, livers, and eyes of living organisms, and some still had traces of blood. The rest were some other items that Leyland could not identify. As for potions, every stall with potions on its signboard had acolytes clamoring over them. The stall owners all had calm expressions and radiated strong energy waves. According to the estimation of the AI chip, most of these acolytes were level 3 acolytes. As expected, the rarity of potions is above my imagination, not to mention magic artifacts. Not a single one is on sale. Leyland thought of Jaden, who previously used the green-colored badge. That was a low-grade magic artifact, similar to the ring he had before. A level 1 acolyte could not use any spells, but Jaden had previously subdued Caliwir through the green badge magic artifact. Now it seems like the magic artifact was given to Jaden by Dorot. Leyland could not help but be a little envious. He previously owned a magic artifact too, but unfortunately, it had been broken and was used in the transaction for applying to the academy. With these conditions now, it would be extremely difficult to obtain another one. Leyland looked at the goods on display as he walked towards the center of the trading post. There were a few wooden huts here, and they seemed to have higher standards compared to the surroundings. The acolytes who occasionally walked in and out radiated strong energy waves. Leyland casually walked into a shop selling potions. What do you need? The shop owner was a fatty and wore a gray robe. He looked to be a little lazy. According to the readings of the AI chip, he was also a level 3 acolyte and even carried a magic artifact. I need a set of equipment so that I can practice brewing potions, Leyland said unhurriedly. Another one who is dreaming, and it's actually a level 1 acolyte who wants to try brewing potions. You think you're Merlin? The fatty scolded him. Excuse me, Merlin is my senior and we have the same mentor, Leyland replied. So it's like this. It turns out you're Croft's apprentice, so already brewing potions at this stage is understandable. It is understandable. The fatty's face seemed to be filled with spirit. So you're Merlin's junior. Hello, I am Wooks. The fatty introduced himself, and there was a cunning expression on his face. Rather than potion brewing, if you're able to get me some of Merlin's potions, I will give a good price for them. Of course, if they were made by Professor Croft, it would be even better. My apologies, Professor Croft's potions are impossible. As for Merlin S., I'll give it a try. Leyland rolled his eyes, but he did not reject him outrightly. Now, can you give me an introduction of the apparatus? Oh, of course. Of course. The fatty rubbed his hands and placed a few sets of glass apparatus on the wooden table. There is all of this. They are second-hand, but they are still usable. I recommend this set. It's from a level 3 acolyte that did not want it anymore. The fatty took out an apparatus set which included beakers, a glass rod, a petri dish, test tubes, and a set of pale yellow tools. It seemed rather complete. Leyland examined the equipment with his hands. According to the analysis of the AI chip, the quality of this apparatus set was average, but it was enough for him to use. I'll take this one then. How many magic crystals? Leyland asked. 2 pieces, the fatty replied. Wrap it well for me. Leyland handed the 2 magic crystals over to the fatty. Fatty received them and packaged the set before handing it over to Leyland. Do you have any elementary potion formulas? Leyland placed the bundle on his back and asked again. Yes. I have formulas for strength potions, hemostatic potions, and bug removal potions. Which one do you want? The strength potion. These were all elementary potion formulas, so Leyland simply picked one. Give me a set of ingredients as well. Starting attempts, the fatty Wooks took out a black-colored box from a shelf behind him and placed it on the table. He also took out a sheet of parchment from under the sales counter. It seemed to be extremely old, with the ends a little torn. 1 copy of the strength potion formula, 1 magic crystal. 1 set of ingredients, enough for 10 tries, 1 magic crystal. Leyland opened the black-colored box. Inside were 10 crimson-colored fruits arranged neatly, which seemed to have traces of cracks on their surface, and beside them was a root of some green plant and a bottle of black powder. Putting the box away and picking up the faint yellowish parchment paper, he saw a formula written in black ink, which even included the areas to note. Although the handwriting was a little faded, it was still legible as a whole. Leyland nodded his head and tucked the parchment paper into his robes. He took out the last 2 magic crystals he had in his waist pouch and handed it to Wooks, then left the hut without turning back. He only had 4 magic crystals and had spent them all on this small amount of ingredients. This terrifying expenditure for potion brewing was not something the average acolyte could bear. What followed next was that Leyland's daily routine had taken a similar route to how he had been in his previous world. Every day, he was shuttling to and fro between 5 places: the dorm, the dining hall, the academic area, the experiment lab, and the library. Another month passed unknowingly. The gathering of data has been completed. The AI chip's notification sounded. Sitting on one side of a long table in the library, Leyland closed the book he was holding in his hands. Apart from attending classes and aiding his mentor with his experiments, the majority of his time was spent in the library. Almost every book that could be read for free was browsed through, and the AI chip finished accumulating more data. Hugh, I have finally understood the formulation of potions. Leyland exhaled loudly. Although Croft had provided some elementary information about potioneering, there were many things that he still did not understand. He learnt things like the terminology and vocabulary by himself in the library. If he wanted a professor's explanation, he would have had to pay a fee. However, it was a pity that Leyland had turned into a peasant with 0 magic crystals. Many acolytes who were embarrassingly short of magic crystals did the same thing, browsing through the variety of free information in the library. However, they did not have Leyland's AI chip, so they usually needed a dozen days to a month to find what they wanted in the library. As for Leyland, he had now recorded all the information that was available to him in the library already. He even made a search function for it, so the information would be at his perusal if he met with any questions in the future. However, even elementary potioneering was considered higher-tiered information. Even with the constant analyses from the AI chip, Leyland only knew about 1/3 of it, but that was already extremely useful to him. At least now, when he looked back at the basics of potioneering, it was like looking down at the tiles from the roof of a tall building. As for the elementary potion brewing and the strength potion formula, they had been fully analyzed, so it was time to put them into practice. My accumulation of knowledge is already enough. I'll begin brewing the strength potion today. Leyland placed the books back on the shelves and left the library. A female acolyte with brunette hair raised her head and glanced at Leyland before returning her attention to the black book in her hands. The library had many acolytes, and yet they were all well-behaved and extremely quiet. It was very suitable for reading and one of Leyland's favorite hangouts. Hey, Leyland! When he walked out of the library, an acolyte greeted him. Leyland raised his head. Ryan Calliweir. Calliweir wore the gray robes of an acolyte, and his original haughtiness had lessened. Congratulations on becoming a level 1 acolyte. Thank you, congratulations to you too, Leyland replied with a smile. He too had sensed that Callyware had turned into a level 1 acolyte. The few of us in the clique have already turned into level 1 acolytes. Callyware stressed the first few words and seemed to have automatically excluded Guricha and the others. We have taken up a few missions recently. Do you have any interest in joining us? Callyware asked. Callyware seemed to be trying hard to maintain the previous group of friends. Do a mission now. Leyland's brows furrowed. From what I know, the area outside the academy has been getting dangerous lately, especially for those level 1 acolytes who do not even know any spells. There's no choice. Any high-tiered information here has to be bought, and magic crystals are the only form of currency. The magic crystals that we brought have already been spent. Callyware smiled bitterly. If you want to be a potions master, the expenditure of resources will be extremely great. About taking up missions, I'll consider it again when I have become a level 2 acolyte. Take care of yourselves. Leyland eventually declined. The rewards for completing missions were extremely alluring, but one needed to risk their life to claim them. All right then. I heard that you are earning magic crystals by giving tuition to others. Could you also teach us? It can be in accordance with your rates. After hearing that Leyland was unwilling to go, Callyware felt a little dejected, but he continued to ask. Definitely, it'll be my pleasure. I can even give you guys favorable rates. Leyland smiled lightly. Exchanging benefits was always the norm for Magi. Both sides decided on the location and date, and then Callyware and his party left after that. Seeing their departing figures, Leyland's eyes flashed. He is still roping people in. What a pity Callyware has still not understood that in the world of Magi, one's own strength holds the most importance. Shaking his head, he returned to his dorm. Every acolyte in the Abyssal Bone Forest Academy had a dorm of their own, so secrecy and safety were not an issue. Leyland locked the door and hung up a Do Not Disturb sign. Only then did he return to the room beside the bedroom. A large black-colored table occupied the room, and Leyland's previously bought apparatus set had been placed on it. After a few attempts at practicing, I am now a little more familiar with these apparatus, and I finished analyzing the formula for the strength potion today, so it's about time to start. Leyland muttered to himself and took out the black box containing the ingredients. He placed it on the table and opened it. The crimson fruit, green stem, and bottle of black powder appeared before his eyes. Leyland's fingers stroked the surfaces of these 3 items. AI chip, measure the activity within and establish a model. Establishing scan, in the midst of gathering data, beginning construction. Begin the simulation of the experiment. Seeing the AI chip complete its task, Leyland gave it another command. Simulation of model in process. Strength potion formula. Estimated time consumed, 2 hours 21 minutes. As expected, it's possible. Leyland smiled jubilantly. Even for identical ingredients, the slightest deviation would result in different results when making the potion. As for qualified potions masters, they must make use of their experience and put the theory into practice, then make adjustments to obtain the desired properties of the potion. This field only relied on raw talent and the future accumulation of experience. As for the AI chip, it was able to scan and produce simulations, resulting in a success rate that was much higher than for many other acolytes. Leyland patiently waited for some time, and then heard the AI chip's voice. The simulation of the model is completed. Success rate, 23.6%. A success rate close to 1/4. Leyland was in ecstasy. A regular acolyte will always fail on their first attempt at brewing potions. As for me, I'll be able to have a 1 in 4 chance of success if I follow the AI chip's instructions. Begin transmitting the process for the experiment. Beginning the transmission of data. A few images flashed by Leyland's eyes as if he had already practiced making these potions countless of times. Various scenarios and their suitable responses, as well as the preparation of ingredients, were all presented in front of him. It's time to start. Leyland's expression turned solemn, and he picked up a crimson fruit. This is a blood vitality fruit, and it contains a huge amount of nourishment if it was prepared in an antidote. Leyland placed the blood vitality fruit into a white basin. He picked up a pounding tool and smashed the fruit into a pulp. The red juices flowed out, and an alcoholic scent was emitted from it. After filtering out the mashed blood vitality fruit, Leyland poured the red juice into a beaker. After the black candlestick had been lit, light blue flames continuously lapped at the bottom of the beaker. Within minutes, The red juice in the beaker started to boil, and a few flecks of black powder constantly jumped about in the bubbles. Leyland picked up the glass rod beside him and stirred the contents of the beaker. Marley Wusha, Leyland chanted. A thread of spiritual force traveled through the glass rod and entered the bubbling liquid, and a few wisps of black gas continued to be produced. It was the poison inside the blood vitality fruit. This was why only a level 1 acolyte and above could start to practice making potions, as a few steps required the usage of energy particles. After all of the black gaseous substance were expelled, Leyland placed the liquid, which was even more crimson than before, into a test tube. The first step is completed. The degree of purification isn't bad. The next part should be the stem of the silk fruit. What Leyland did next was to prepare the rest of the blood vitality fruit and silk fruit together. He failed somewhere in the middle for a few times, and finally succeeded after making the 8th batch of the crimson liquid and the 7th batch of the frozen green substance. The next step should be the final blending process. Leyland placed the contents of the frozen green substance onto a Petri dish, took out the black powder from the glass bottle, and sprinkled it on top. The black powder caused a strong reaction after coming into contact with the frozen green substance. The frozen green substance continued to swell and let out a humming noise. Ice! Leyland muttered an incantation in the Bayan language. White mist suddenly appeared from the Petri dish, condensing into a layer of ice and solidifying the frozen green substance yet again. It is time. Leyland placed the frozen lump into a beaker, where a flame blazed continuously underneath the beaker. The final step. Leyland's eyes widened, and he poured the purified crimson liquid into the beaker. A thread of his spiritual force also continuously extended into the beaker. Pa! A sound suddenly came from the beaker. The frozen lump and the red liquid suddenly turned black, and a sickening stench emitted from it. Have I failed? Leyland was indifferent. AI chip, analyze the reason. Beep. In the process of analyzing. Conclusion. The host's spiritual force was unstable, and the temperature of the flames caused some distortion. The AI chip replayed Leyland's earlier actions and revealed the reason for failure. Successful potion brewing. Leyland dumped the failed experiment residue into the bin and inhaled deeply. Again! The same process was repeated, and finally, the purified crimson liquid from the blood vitality fruit was poured into the beaker. This time, Leyland shifted all his concentration onto the beaker and continued to adjust the temperature of the flame below it. The red liquid and the frozen green substance continued to merge together, turning a faint yellowish color. Green life, blood red vitality. Under the interference of the willpower from the depths of the abyss, you shall fuse. Furaksha. Leyland chanted the final phase of the incantation. The various colors in the beaker continued to fuse together as he chanted. The substance finally turned into a faint blue color liquid and emitted a fragrant and alluring scent. It's completed. I successfully brewed the strength potion. Leyland smiled lightly and poured the light blue liquid into a tiny test tube. The liquid in this finger-length test tube can provide the nourishment that a person needs for 7 days, and also ensure that the person's physical body and mental energy will be vigorous. It is a favorite for people who work on long experiments and adventurers. The normal price is 5 magic crystals. Leyland shook the test tube, and the potion inside glowed enchantingly under the light. One night passed. Leyland looked at the 3 light blue test tubes that he held absent-mindedly. With 10 sets of ingredients, I succeeded 3 times and obtained 3 potions. This news definitely cannot be leaked out, otherwise I will not be able to explain myself, Leyland resolved, and destroyed the 3 test tubes containing the potions. What a pity. Leyland was a little heartbroken. These 3 potions are worth 15 magic crystals, but the production cost is only 1 magic crystal. This potion industry has a crazy profit margin of over 12 times its cost, but I'm unable to sell them now. Arg. Leyland was rather exasperated. Not only can I not sell the potions, I still need to earn money to buy ingredients to continue my experiments and put on a facade of failure. I can only sell the most basic of potions after half a year. This estimate was based on Merlin's success rate. He did not want to stand out and attract too much attention. Hence, he had to perform a little worse than Merlin. Merlin had a huge amount of ingredients and continuously practiced brewing back then. Only after a month did he manage to brew his first potion. Leyland did not have many magic crystals, so he could only show his talent in potion brewing after half a year. He was, after all, an apprentice of the potions professor, and when he finally brewed his first potion successfully after half a year of failure, he would only be labeled as an ordinary talent as an apprentice of the potions professor, which was extremely logical. Potions absolutely cannot be sold in large quantities within the academy grounds, unless I am able to find a black market, but traveling outside the academy is too dangerous. Leyland shook his head, tidied up the experiment apparatus, and walked out of the room. This also proves that having such a high-precision AI chip gives me a huge edge over others in tasks with troublesome details. What's next is to continue to focus and break through to a level 2 acolyte. After I have the ability, I will abide by this cycle of selling potions, earning magic crystals, and gaining knowledge. Leyland still needed close to a year's time to break through to a level 2 acolyte, according to the calculations from the AI chip. After all, it would get increasingly harder to construct the 24 mind runes as the runes multiplied, and he also needed to accumulate more knowledge. In this period, I can constantly gather data and finish compiling the information on spiritual force. This will be very useful to me in the future. Unknowingly, another half a year passed just like that. A brown-haired youth lowered his head as he walked on the black-tiled pavement as if he was deep in thought. This youth looked to be only 13 or 14 years of age and had brown hair. His face was unusually pale if it had not seen the sun for a long time. This youth was naturally Leyland. At this moment, his right hand was hidden inside his sleeves, holding on to a test tube, and he appeared to be making some kind of choice. It has already been half a year since the first time I successfully brewed a potion. Leyland looked at the acolytes walking past him and thought to himself. In this half a year, many things had happened within the academy. For instance, Fail achieved some great accomplishments, and Merlin managed to brew a new potion. The fame of these geniuses only increased. However, Leyland was more concerned with the fact that Jaden had already advanced to a level 2 acolyte. He recalled that when Caliwir spoke of this news, he could not hide the fear and envy in his eyes despite trying his best to conceal it. The aptitude, as well as advancement, of a 5th-grade acolyte was extremely startling. As a fellow acolyte who came from the same area as him, Leyland did not have much thoughts towards it. He buried himself with the work he had to do, and to an outsider, he was just an ordinary level 1 acolyte. In this half-year, Leyland had bought many of the strength potion ingredients and conducted many potion brewing sessions. He also invested all of the profit he earned from giving tuition into this potion making. He also put up a front to conceal the AI chip and tried to brew a potion without the AI chip's help most of the time, which had a success rate of 0. So far, he had spent a dozen odd magic crystals on this. Of course, he also brought forward the problems he encountered to his mentor, Croft, at times, and asked other questions about the basics and brewing techniques. This was greatly beneficial for his potioneering. Secretly, Leyland could already affirm that with the help of the AI chip, his potioneering skills had already surpassed Merlin, only being a little inferior to his mentor, Croft. Today, it would be the day he accidentally succeeded in brewing a potion and let his mentor evaluate it. This time, the successful product was controlled by him through the AI chip. He purposely made some minute errors, making it seem like an inferior product that was made by an acolyte, but it would still be considered decent for a new acolyte. Leyland's palm, which was gripping the potion, uncontrollably tightened. Only after today can I start to sell a few potions in broad daylight and earn some magic crystals. Yesterday, I heard Raynor say that he already felt close to advancing. Therefore, my progress can't lag behind too much. Leyland hurriedly walked into Croft's experiment lab. Leyland, do you have more problems with the brewing of the strength potion? Croft could clearly feel that his apprentice was different today. No, sir. Leyland inhaled deeply. I have already succeeded once last night. What? The beaker in Croft's hands trembled. Although your talent in potioneering has exceeded my expectations, the brewing of a strength potion is not that easy. After half a year, Croft was able to sense his apprentice's frightening improvement after being questioned so much. However, he still felt that Leyland was still lacking in regards to brewing the strength potion successfully. Hearing this, Merlin's hand shook while he was concentrating on lowering a red crystal bead into a test tube. Black smoke emitted from the test tube and Merlin sighed, turning his attention over here. As for Bicky, She just leaned over directly. "Did you bring the completed potion?" Croft asked. "It's in here." Leyland took out a blue-colored test tube and handed it to the professor. Croft unplugged the wooden stopper and took a sniff. His face revealed a startled expression. He then poured a drop on his finger. A fine, milky white light extended from between his brows and directly pierced the droplet, making it shake. Croft closed his eyes, his brows furrowed and soon relaxed. The purification of the blood vitality fruit was not bad, but too much was added at the end. There was also some problem with your usage of spiritual force, which damaged the chemical properties. All in all, there are quite a few problems, but you have succeeded as a whole. Congratulations. Croft smiled jubilantly. Hearing this, Leyland also smiled, and Bicky even cheered, giving Leyland a warm hug. The fiery hot curves of this girl attached themselves onto Leyland's chest, which gave rise to a peculiar feeling in his heart. Congratulations! Merlin walked over too. Compared to Senior Merlin, I still have much to learn. Leyland let go of Bicky and hurriedly said, "You don't have to be too humble. Compared to Merlin, your resources are lacking. I guarantee that you would have been able to brew your first potion in 3 to 4 months otherwise. In Abyssal Bone Forest Academy, this talent can already be considered excellent," Croft exclaimed. "Thinking back now, I am really lucky. First, I accepted Merlin, who has talent in potioneering, as my apprentice. And now I have you," Croft exclaimed. "Sir, I will also work hard." Bicky clenched her small fists and returned to her experiment table. "Finish preparing the monkey-headed mushrooms in your hands first before you say anything else." Croft's face turned stiff. After that, he returned the strength potion to Leyland. This time, luck played an important factor in brewing the strength potion. What you have to do next is to remember how it felt when you first succeeded, and then practice more. This test tube can also be sold and exchanged for more resources. Croft seemed to be reminding him. "Leyland, you must remember, different potions have different challenges for potions masters. Although you are able to brew this strength potion right now, you would most likely revert back to a newbie if you were to replace it with a hemostatic potion. Therefore, do not be arrogant. From now on, focus on practicing your potion brewing." "I will." Leyland pocketed the strength potion well and promised solemnly. After he finished his tasks in the experiment lab, Leyland left together with Bicky. "Shall we go to the second-level dining hall to feast, to commemorate your first success?" Bicky ran in front and twirled around a few times as if she was a lively butterfly. "Of course, it is my honor to invite a beautiful lady to a meal." Leyland bowed slightly, a gentleman's propriety. "Hee." Bicky covered her mouth and laughed adorably, and then her expression darkened. If only he was like you." "What's wrong? Your senior fail is ignoring you again." Leyland knew a little about this matter. In this half-year, Bicky gradually got closer to Fail and finally became friends with him, but they were only normal friends. As for Fail, he was constantly studying and practicing, and taking risks outside the academy. He was always surrounded by beautiful girls, so he did not think much of Bicky and was a little standoffish. "It's not that. Fail just has a very important experiment coming up, and is in the midst of collecting resources, so he's very busy." Bicky lowered her head and kicked a pebble off the sidewalk. For Sale, something's not right. A thought suddenly occurred to Leyland. Could you have given him your family's resources? No wonder you are still a level 1 acolyte. Otherwise, with your aptitude, you should have advanced to the next level long ago. Bicky belonged to a small Magus family. Although small in size, they were still capable of obtaining the occasional resources and magic crystals. As for Bicky, the one whom the family placed all its hopes on, she was naturally given a fixed share each month. Her aptitude was not bad, and she had arrived earlier than Leyland by a year. By right, she should have been promoted to a level 2 acolyte long ago. However, she was still a level 1 acolyte, and even Leyland had nearly caught up to her. It's not like that." Bicky hurriedly shook her head. Seeing Bicky's expression, Leyland slowly shook his head. "Forget it. I can't really do anything for you regarding this matter. However, you must remember to be more careful," Leyland hinted. "All right, let's go to the dining hall on the 2nd floor. I hear that the honey-flavored cake there isn't bad." Bicky smiled, and it was obvious she did not want to talk about this topic anymore. The 2nd-level dining hall was a special place. Contrary to the 3rd-level cafeteria where the food was served for free, the service here had to be paid for in magic crystals. It was the first time Leyland had come here. After ordering 2 honey-flavored cakes, a beef steak, 2 fruit juices, and the flesh of a unihorned lizard, the total came up to 1 magic crystal and made Leyland feel a pang in his heart. I've heard that if the flesh of these lizards is specially prepared, it is very beneficial for a Magus's meditation, so I must try it today. Leyland used a knife to slice off a part of the lizard meat, picked the meat up with a fork, and placed it into his mouth. He instantly felt the fragrant flavor of the meat spread throughout his taste buds, and Leyland's eyes lit up in wonderment. Beep. An ingredient with a beneficial effect on the host's body has been detected. Result: mild increase in meditation. Hint: requires 10 continuous days of consumption for an obvious increase in effect. Leyland was speechless. It's such a splendid item, but how could I have that many magic crystals? I can only eat it for its flavor. The other side, Vicky was very happily eating the honey-flavored cake. After their meal, Leyland bade farewell to Vicky and went to the trading post. Leyan had very few magic crystals to begin with, but now he planned to sell the strength potion. With Croft's approval, he could earn magic crystals by brewing and selling more strength potions. After walking past the chaotic stalls, Leyland arrived at Wooks's stall, the stall he had bought potion ingredients from during his first visit to this place. Leyland. It's you again. You have spent dozens of magic crystals this half-year. Haven't you given up yet? Wooks was still as fat as ever. Potioneering is such an enchanting skill, I cannot bear to give it up, Leyland said, half-jokingly. However, today I am here not just to buy ingredients, Leyland said as he handed the strength potion over to fatty Wooks. Look at this. This is... Wooks gaped. You've succeeded. Of course, Leyland smiled lightly. What Wooks did next was to make a thorough inspection, and after ensuring that it was indeed an authentic strength potion, his eyes almost seemed to glow. Over 100 times. You have only attempted it around 100 times, and yet you've succeeded in brewing a strength potion. This talent is only slightly inferior to Merlin's. Most of the ingredients were sold to Leyland by Wooks, so he was able to deduce Leyland's talent very quickly. As if. This is due to Mentor Croft's guidance, Leyland said bashfully. Oh, it's Croft again. He already has such a talented student like Merlin. Why did they send yet another gifted student to him? The fatty slapped his forehead and let out a shrill voice. Why don't you consider changing mentors? My mentor rank is also a professor who is adept in potioneering. He will definitely like you. My apologies. I have never considered changing at all. Leyland hurriedly rejected the offer. Croft treated him rather well, and he would surely incur the wrath of the Magus if he changed mentors on a whim. He simply did not want to take that risk. What a pity. The fatty shook his head. He clearly knew that he had been grasping at straws. All right, I will be able to give you 4 magic crystals for this strength potion. How about it? The fatty asked. Although the strength potion was priced at 5 magic crystals, 4 magic crystals was a reasonable price when considering the profit that was to be made by the stall. It's a fair deal. Exchange the magic crystals for more ingredients for the strength potion. All right, if you wish to sell any more strength potions in the future, I will buy them all at the price of 4 magic crystals per potion. Wooks's eyes flashed. An acolyte with a potioneering talent that was slightly lower than Merlin's was akin to a magic crystal mine that had yet to be excavated. Definitely, to a good partnership. Leyland and Wooks shook hands, and after collecting 4 black boxes, he walked out from the hut. Look quickly, fresh mountain cat eyeballs. This is an item that will greatly benefit your meditation. Exquisite cross blades, as well as military crossbows, all imported from the deep blue kingdom. Feathers of a flamingo. A precious ingredient for experiments, only 5 magic crystals. Here and there, various acolytes were promoting their wares. Leyland saw a black-robed acolyte holding up a huge 5-colored feather and advertising continuously, which obviously attracted a huge crowd. AI chip, scan the feather. Beep, comparing to databank. Similarity level. Minus tail feathers 83%, homegrown peacock 64%, sharp-beaked crane 34%. Leyland looked at the acolyte who was still advertising his goods and was speechless. Flamingo feathers are rare, but the 3 bird feathers that the AI chip detected were so common that acolytes wouldn't bother to pick them up if they fell to the ground. Obviously, it was a scam. This situation was rather common in such stalls. Although goods are rather good, the counterfeit goods are also aplenty. Hence, Leyland always bought from the wooden huts in the center area. Moreover, acolytes are sharp, and the chances of finding a cheap yet good item in the stalls and striking big are the same as finding the remnants of dead magi. Leyland shook his head and left the trading post. 3 days later, Leyland was in his dorm, looking at 16 test tube lined up properly on his table, deep in thought. Right now, his success rate for brewing a strength potion is almost at the same level at Croft at 40%. However, he would be seeking trouble if he were to sell them all at once. Right now, I am only able to put on a front and earn just a little, so at most it will be 2 test tubes. As for the rest, I will have to stow them away. Leyland sighed and placed 2 test tube in the purse hanging around his waist, and then stowed the remaining 14 test tubes in the empty space under his bed. I won't be able to sell huge amounts within the academy, so I had better find some other way outside. The best scenario would be a black market. I hear prices there are higher too. The outside world is dangerous. I must become a level 2 acolyte before going out. What's next? I can use the magic crystals I earned from selling potions to buy higher-tiered knowledge from Croft and expedite my breakthrough to level 2 acolyte. After becoming a level 2 acolyte, I can attempt to practice magic spells and take a mission outside to see if I can find ways to sell the potions. Leyland pondered and then asked, AI chip, bring forth my current stats. Beep. Leyland Farlier, level 1 acolyte. Strength, 2.1 agility, 2.3 vitality, 2.5 status, healthy. After such a long period of meditation, my vitality has increased the most. As for strength and agility, they have increased a little too. As for my spiritual force, Leyland looked at the data in front of him and his brows furrowed. AI chip, are you able to convert my spiritual force into data and display it? Data is insufficient. Information for spiritual force is being collated. The AI chip replied. When will it be ready? Leyland asked. Estimated time, 155 days, 21 hours. Half a year, huh? It is close to when I advance to level 2 acolyte. Leyland nodded his head. I'm not planning to leave in this next half a year, so it's no big deal. What followed next was that Leyland entered into a state of painstaking training. Apart from aiding Croft in his daily experiments, he was brewing potions, exchanging them for magic crystals, and then purchasing more information. Besides brewing strength potions, he also bought the formulas for the hemostasis potion and some low-leveled antidotes and began to practice brewing them. With the AI chip, the success rate was not bad, but this fact was concealed by Leyland. During this period, Leyland also heard some bad news. Callieweir's team had met with trouble on a mission. Not only had some been injured, others had also died. The acolyte who came with him in the same dirigible, third-grade acolyte Hank, would forever be buried in the abyssal bone marsh. Leyland was expecting a similar result, as a level 1 acolyte only has a small resistance to magic. It would be abnormal if they risked their lives and was free of injuries or loss of lives. After this incident, Callieweir and his team seemed to face reality and started to be content with studying in the academy, not daring to take on any other missions. In the blink of an eye, Leyland grew a little taller and his face acquired a tinge of maturity. I am finally 14 too. Seeing that his palms had grown a little larger, he felt deeply moved. The Abyssal Bone Forest Academy seemed to have a spell formation regulating the temperature. Leyland always wore the gray robe for acolytes, but he never felt any stifling heat or frigidness. Sir, I want to purchase the crystal ball with the magic spell formulas. Leyland stood in front of Croft. Oh. You want to begin learning rank 0 spells. Croft cussed the porcelain cup that was emitting steam and heat in his hand, and sipped from it. I have nearly finished constructing my mind runes, and there's only one more step needed before I advance to a level 2 acolyte. I wish to make some preparations for this beforehand, Leyland said warmly. Being able to progress in both potioneering and also meditation, I am very gratified, Croft said as he stole a glance at Bicky, who was nearby. Bicky had only advanced into a level 2 acolyte 2 days ago, and never exhibited any extraordinary talents towards potioneering. With her aptitude, this could be considered a slow pace. The academy price for the introduction to magic spell models is 30 magic crystals. I am able to give you a discount and reduce the price to 20 magic crystals. Although I could also give you this information for free, I want you to know that you will only achieve results with effort. Croft smiled lightly. This was the authority of the professors. They could give students favorable prices or even give the information free of charge. It all depended on the mood of the professor. From this, it was obvious that Croft approved of Leyland. Spell, of course. I will always remember the teachings of my mentor. Leyland hurriedly nodded his head and took out 20 magic crystals from the black pouch hung on his waist. 20 black magic crystals fell onto the table, and let off a dark luster. Very well. This is a crystal ball with the introduction to magic spell models recorded on it. You can study it, but remember to practice it only after you have been promoted. Croft took a fist-sized crystal ball off the wooden shelf at the side and handed it to Leyland. Golden words seemed to ripple inside it. Leyland stooped over to take it and pocketed the crystal ball. These crystal balls were tools to record information in, and they could store more information than sheets of parchment. However, they could only be used once, and the information inside would fade away after someone viewed the contents, and hence, they were rather costly. Deep in the night, Leyland sat on the bed within his dorm and held the crystal ball in his hands. Magi have named the spells that acolytes are able to cast rank 0 spells, to differentiate from the spells that Magi can cast. No matter if they are a level 2 acolyte or level 3 acolyte, they are only able to use rank 0 spells. Furthermore, they need to be first-class Magi to be able to cast them without injury, and this is often a sign of becoming an official Magus. The principle of magic spells models is to construct a model in your mind with your spiritual force. After that, you use the nature of your spiritual force to attract the external energy particles and transform them intricately, turning them into a spell. To put it simply, the spiritual force is the primer, and the spell model is the catalyst. The primer is always the same, but under the effect of different catalysts, different types of energy particles will be attracted to it to form a different spell. Leyland concluded and put the crystal ball away. Constructing a spell model is a complicated matter. In addition, your spiritual force will be impaired once you fail and will need at least half a month to recover. This is a bottleneck that even 5th-grade acolytes are unable to break through with ease. However, I can minimize my failures with help from the AI chip. After advancing to a level 3 acolyte, I must construct a spell model and even buy the various spell models. This would be a big expense if not for my improvement in potioneering. Normal acolytes would have to risk their lives many times over before they earned enough magic crystals. From this, Leyland could discern the bloody price one must pay on the path of a Magus. Compared to the magic crystals earned by risking his life as a level 1 acolyte, he would earn more by selling potions. Monopolizing the market will yield the greatest profits. All these are none of my concern. What I have to do now is to advance to a level 2 acolyte. A level 1 acolyte could only store a slight amount of energy particles in their body and have a basic magic resistance. However, their usage of energy particles is rather shallow, and hence, they are unable to cast magic. As for a level 2 acolyte, the greatest difference is that they are able to cast rank 0 spells. A rank 0 spell that is amplified by the spell's model will have a greater destructive effect compared to the simple usage of energy particles. I have almost finished with the construction of my 24 mind runes. Tonight, I will advance to a level 2 acolyte. There was resolve on Leyland's face. One night passed. In the dorm, Leyland opened his eyes. I have finally advanced to a level 2 acolyte. I can sense that the energy particles in my body have increased several times more than when compared to a level 1 acolyte. Beep. Spiritual force can now be represented in figures. Proceed with the conversion. At this moment, the voice of the AI chip sounded. It seems to be 2 days faster than expected. What happened? The spiritual force of the host has increased, and there is an unknown effect on the AI chip. Processing speed has increased. A screen was projected by the AI chip, and it was littered with many curved lines and numbers. From this, one could see that the processing ability of the AI chip had been raised last night. It seems like the AI chip has indeed undergone some qualitative changes after transcending worlds. Now that it has fused with my soul, the increase in spiritual force when my soul became more powerful has indirectly affected the AI chip. Leyland's guessed that the subject of souls was the most unfathomable. Although Abyssal Bone Forest Academy claimed to be a pioneer in this area, they only managed to experience and grasp a few behaviors and patterns of the ectoplasmic beings. Moreover, only an official Magus was qualified to browse this information. For Leyland, it was still a long journey ahead. My AI chip having the ability to represent my spiritual force in numbers is also a good thing. Bring out my current stats. Leyland Farlier, Level 2 Acolyte. Strength, 2.2 Agility, 2.4 Vitality, 2.7 Spiritual Force, 4.1 Status. Healthy, the AI chip projected a 3D image in front of Leyland's eyes and displayed his stats. The spiritual force can finally be shown in numbers. My spiritual force stat is almost equivalent to that of 4 people combined. Leyland looked at the image and asked, AI chip. Investigate the reason for the decreased growth after advancing to a level 2 acolyte. Mission establishing, inspection in process. Reason discovered, the host has more resistance. The AI chip's voice sounded. As expected, using radiation to increase my stats has its limits. I wonder what methods those official magi used to strengthen their bodies. Leyland touched his chin. There was also a small district between the academic area and the trading post. It was where the academy sold higher-leveled goods. Although the items had set standards, they were more expensive. The service of the staff was also bad, and they were extremely cold. Leyland came to the front of a counter. Behind the glass casing was a grave-looking old lady who wore a deadpan expression as if Leyland owed her a lot of magic crystals. Sorry to bother you, Leyland bowed slightly. He could sense the energy waves of a level 3 acolyte radiating from this old lady. AI chip, inspect. What do you want? The old lady's voice sounded. It contained a gloomy and chilly air, like a cold, glossy fish scale, and gave people goosebumps. Beep. Name, unknown. Strength, 2 agility, 2.1 vitality, 3.5 spiritual force, 7.6 status. Healthy, with the AI chip providing the information, he confirmed that this old lady was indeed a level 3 acolyte, but her spiritual force was rather low, as if she had been injured before. However, it was still a piece of cake for her to deal with Leyland. The AI chip can already inspect the stats of the acolytes and other living organisms. It just cannot get past the defensive abilities of a Magus still. Leyland mustered the best smile he had. Would you let me have a look at the basic spell models? Take it. The old lady flung a dusty large book over to him and did not seem even slightly bothered about whether he was going to buy it or not. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. Leyland psyched himself and opened the book. A spell model and the corresponding introduction appeared in his vision. Secondary energy fireball. Description: summon a formidable fireball to attack your enemies. Prerequisite courses: foundations of negative energy, construction of spell models. Shadow sphere. Description: use shadow energy to construct a fairly covert sphere. Prerequisite courses: necromancy studies, transfiguration. Acidic aqua shot. Description: create an acidic ball with immense corrosive properties, able to correct the trajectory slightly. Prerequisite courses: foundations of negative energy, psychology. Umbra's hand. Description: ability to use negative energy to form a concealed palm in the shadows for attacking, extremely covert. Prerequisite courses: shadow studies, basic evocation. All of these are the most basic spells. Are there any that could be advanced further? Leyland's brows furrowed. None. We only provide the basic spell types here. As for the rest, get them from your mentor. Give me the spell model for acidic aqua shot and Umbra's hand. Leyland inhaled deeply. One will cost 10 magic crystals. The old lady seemed to be annoyed. After handing over 20 magic crystals to the lady, Leyland obtained 2 thick books made of parchment paper. Umbra's hand was written on the cover of the top book, in the Byron language. This counter was obviously constructed in a manner that let the sales staff always sit in a taller position than the customers. Leyland was a little pissed off at having to look up at the old lady. He carried the 2 books and turned around, not wanting to stay for a moment longer. Leyland! On the way back, a voice sounded, and Leyland halted in his footsteps. A male wearing leather armor ran over. Earlier, I saw a silhouette of someone who looked like you, and it was indeed you. We haven't met for a long time, Caliware greeted. The leather armor he wore was rather damaged and looked rather pitiful as it was not repaired. You are buying spell models. Have you advanced to a level 2 acolyte? Caliware looked at Leyland, who was holding the 2 spell books, seemingly startled. Yeah, I have just advanced, so I bought them to learn from, Leyland answered. AI chip, inspect Caliware. Beep, Caliware. Strength, 2.6 agility, 2.8 vitality, 3.1 spiritual force, 4.1 assessment, level 2 acolyte. It seems like Caliware advanced not long before I did. This data shows the stats of an acolyte who had just advanced. Leyland evaluated secretly. Ever since the previous incident, our team has taken up very few missions. Raynor has also advanced to a level 2 acolyte recently and wanted to try learning a spell model. It's a pity that he has yet to pass a few basic theory lessons after failing them several times. Caliware placed his hands in his pocket, obviously wanting to look cooler. After sizing up Leyland's new gray robes, he said, "You are indeed worthy of being a potioneering student, having so much money." Leyland smiled. Not only do the gray robes of the acolytes have spells which remove stains, the fabric was also good. The defensive capabilities could be comparable to leather armor, so the price was rather hefty. Many acolytes did not have the capability to buy another after damaging their set of robes. However, Leyland was different. He even had 2 more sets stored in his wardrobe. Recently, my success rate has increased a little, and I earned more magic crystals. However, after buying the spell models, I have spent them all again. Leyland put on a helpless expression. Yeah. Each and every cost in the Abyssal Bone Forest Academy is too high. Caliweir's expression was not too good. He came from a first-class noble family in the Chernobyl Islands, but he discovered he was actually extremely broke when he got here. Speaking of this, after we have all advanced to level 2 acolytes and mastered our spells, shall we all take up a mission? Leyland asked. Really? That would be great. Caliweir was extremely gleeful. It seemed as though he had been considering it for a long time. Experimenting with spells, Leyland and Caliweir discussed the finer details and then bade farewell to each other. Leyland contemplated deeply before deciding to go on a mission with Caliweir and his team. He still had a lot of potions which he did not dare to sell, so he could only seek for alternatives. Moreover, converting the knowledge gained from learning a spell into battle experience requires a continuous process of battling. Regarding battle experience, Caliweir and his team's average strength were similar to his, and they also came from the same region. Everyone also knew each other beforehand, which was naturally better than being with an unfamiliar group of people. Furthermore, Caliweir has undergone a long period of arduous training and has learned a lot. Since he could be considered to have an abundance of experience, Leyland was more at ease with his team. When I master the spell model, my plan is to follow Caliweir and his team on a mission and accumulate some experience. After that, I'll leave the academy on my own and seek alternative ways. Returning back to his dorm, Leyland picked up the Umbra's Hand spellbook. The yellow cover of the spellbook was extremely sturdy like leather, and there were some patterns on it which sent an icy cold feeling from Leyland's fingertips into his body. The book was tightly bound by a metal chain, and the ends were clipped in the fashion of a belt. Learning the Umbra's Hand requires research in shadow energy and evocation. I've learned both long ago. Via selling potions, Leyland continuously improved his knowledge by acquiring advanced information on the shadow element and studying them. The incantation for opening it, Mansadala, Leyland spoke in a low voice. After hearing the incantation, the book suddenly trembled, and amidst the trembling, the black chains automatically untied by themselves, and the pages started to flip through. AI chip, begin recording the information. Leyland continuously looked at the spellbook containing the model of Umbra's Hand. Only after quickly flipping through it once and hearing the notification from the AI chip that it had fully recorded the content, did he put the book down. The construction of a spell model is the foundation for a Magus to cast spells. This process includes a series of complex variation as well as the precise construction of the spell model itself. To learn a spell, 3 months is needed at the very least. As he learned of the difficulty for a Magus to cast spells, Leyland sighed. Without the AI chip, he could only learn to cast spells after countless attempts and failures. The recording of data is finished, beginning analysis. The AI chip's voice sounded. How long will it take? Estimated time taken, 106 hours 32 minutes. 106 hours 32 minutes. That is the equivalent of 4 to 5 days. This speed is extremely fast. Leyland nodded his head. He stood up, patted his body, and placed the 2 spell books away neatly. He then walked to one side of his dorm. Originally, this section was utilized for reception or other uses, but Leyland changed it into a mini experiment lab for potion brewing. Although it was rather dangerous to experiment here, with the AI chip he could guarantee that nothing would go wrong. I'm going on a mission in a few months' time. I better focus on brewing a few potions as preventive measures for sudden events. Leyland lit a candle and begun his potion brewing. The education system in Abyssal Bone Forest Academy was rather loose. From what Leyland saw, it was most similar to the ancient times of one teacher to one student. The academy was only providing land and the most basic of services. As for everything else, like acquiring advanced information, one had to learn from a professor, the chances of which were very slim. Moreover, there weren't any compulsory missions that one must take on. As long as a person could pay the school fees and did not meet a bad professor, one could normally stay here for 5 years. Of course, when there was no motivation, one's power would lessen as they did not seek to improve. At least in Leyland's case, he had not come across such a wonderful thing like receiving a few pieces of magic crystals each month for free. To obtain magic crystals, one could only take up a mission and go outside of the academy using their life to fight for them. The world of Magus has always upheld the principles of fair trade. In the following dozen days or so, Leyland devoted his time to analyzing the spell models and purchasing items like grains and nutrients for the mission he was going to take up. One afternoon, Leyland came to the spell experimenting area. The spell experimenting area is a place that the Academy has specially set up for acolytes and magi to test the prowess of their spells. After all, various spells have immense might, and there is also the problem of radiation. If the experiments are not managed properly, the Academy will be blown to bits. The spell experimenting area was located on the leftmost of the Academy, a remote area. The surrounding white marble rock walls were stacked neatly and seemed to be extremely sturdy. Various runes were written on these walls, 2 of which Leyland recognized. One was for the isolation of radiation contamination, and the other was for reinforcing the walls. "Are you going to test your spells?" Leyland walked to a counter where a big, bald guy smiled jovially at him, asking, "Yes, I would like to. Are there any places for me to do so? We have 2 large areas designated for the acolytes and magi. You are only allowed to enter the area for acolytes, and within that area, space is divided into shared and single rooms. Shared rooms mean experimenting with your spells alongside another person. There might be interruptions caused by this, but it is inexpensive. As for single rooms, the fees are much more costly." "What are the rates for a single room?" Leyland asked. The Baldy's eyes shone since it was obvious that there was a promising client here. 3 hours for 1 magic crystal. Our single rooms even have specialized measuring devices which can calculate and report the might of your spells. Furthermore, we have. It's absolutely worth it. Give me one." Leyland handed over a magic crystal to the big guy. "All right, please hold on." The big guy registered him quickly and handed back a black crystal-like item. "This is your room card, number 32. Leyland nodded his head and entered the spell experimenting area. On both sides, the runes on the white marbles glowed with a sparkling light. Some of the rooms obviously had occupants, but there were no sounds coming out from them, and only the sound of Leyland's footsteps could be heard the corridor. As expected, the noise isolation is really effective. Leyland nodded his head, and after locating his own room, swiped the black crystal on a black platform right outside the door. Ka-cha! The door opened and a mechanical female voice sounded. "Welcome! You have 3 hours. Please notice the allocation." The interior of the room was huge. The area was similar in size to a basketball court from Leyland's previous life. In the middle were a few human-shaped targets wearing leather armor, metal armor, and fur. To the far right, there was a screen on the wall, and below it was the instructions on how to operate it. A Magus can attack a target with a spell, and the screen will automatically record the power of the spell. The facilities here are very advanced and seem to have an intelligence of their own. However, it's a pity that it is formed by magic, a different route from what my previous world took," Leyland exclaimed silently. "Let's try with a physical attack first." Leyland's muscles on his right arm bulged as he walked to the front of a white-colored target wearing leather armor. Bang! Leyland moved, and with a low voice, he shouted and punched the middle of the leather armor, leaving a faint trace of an impression. The screen on the right flickered, and a few words appeared. "Classification, physical attack, degree of power, 2 damage to target, minimal. It seems like these targets aren't made of common materials," Leyland muttered to himself. Degree of power is the official standard that magi use to measure the extent of their might. A single unit, as a standard, is equivalent to the energy that can be completely released by 1 gram of magic crystal. This method of measurement isn't bad. AI chip, in the future you can increase the content regarding this area. Recording is done, defragmenting in process. The AI chip's voice sounded. "Ha." Leyland pulled out the crossblade hanging on his waist and brought about a strong gale as he viciously cut down. Kiang! A gap split opened on the leather armor, revealing the white-colored wound beneath. Classification, physical attack, degree of power, 3 damage to target, slight. Seeing the screen, Leyland nodded his head. I used all my might to cut down with the cross blade earlier, but it only gave this kind of damage to the target. It seems like I can put my mind at ease and learn magic. AI chip, transmit the 2 spell models over. After this period of continuous research, the AI chip had already analyzed the 2 spells completely. The last step was to transmit the information into Leyland's hippocampus 1, hippocampus memory recall area in the brain, which would then enable him to grasp these 2 rank 0 spells immediately. Beep, transmitting in progress. With the AI chip's mechanical voice replying, Leyland felt a lot of memories regarding the techniques and procedures of casting these 2 spells surfacing in his mind. Every step felt extremely familiar. It was as if they were personally practiced by him countless of times. Bring out the data of these 2 rank 0 spells. Acidic Aqua Shot, rank 0 spell. Casting time, 3 seconds. Effective distance, 7 meters. Consumption, 2 spiritual force, 2 magic power. Umbra's Hand, rank 0 spell. Casting time, 4 seconds. Effective distance, 10 meters. Consumption, 2 spiritual force, 2 magic power. Magic power is the amount of energy particles that are stored within the body. It is limited by the upper limits of the spiritual force. To cast a spell, one does not only need to use their spiritual force as a primer, but must also understand that the magic power within their body will be consumed as well. Leyland suppressed his excited emotions. AI chip, record in detail my spell casting process. Pandora Greygonger. With the Byron language's incantation sounding from Leyland, a ball of dark green liquid suddenly appeared at the upper area of his right hand. White bubbles continuously frothed outside of it. Let's go. Leyland flung the acidic ball in his hand, and the green liquid streaked across in an arc, landing on a target wearing leather armor. SSSA. SSSA. The corrosion of the physical target sounded non-stop as it continuously dissolved while emitting a huge amount of white smoke. At the same time, an odor that pricks at the sense of smell wafted in all directions. After a few seconds, the human target had been corroded, leaving only a pair of white legs behind. AI chip, estimate the degree of power. Beep. Degree of power. 5. Leyland turned to look at the screen at the right. At this moment, the words on the screen changed and a new record was shown. Classification, magical corrosive attack. Degree of power, 5 damage to target, severe. N. It seems like the AI chip and this screen have the same estimated values, so I won't need to come here in future. I should be able to estimate the degree of power in my spells with the AI chip. Leyland nodded his head and began experimenting with another spell. Umbra's Hand. Following Leyland's incantation, a black-colored hand suddenly appeared under a target which wore steel armor. It grabbed the target's throat forcefully, and with a crashing sound, the target's head fell onto the ground. Classification, energy attack. Degree of power, 4 damage to target, severe.